Good day, everyone. Welcome to the International Euphonium Summit. I'm your host, Nicholas Hofter von Heide. I have a special guest from Australia, James Blackford with the Royal Air Force Band.
Yeah, Royal Australian Air Force Band.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us from Australia and taking this time out of your day and getting to catch us up on what's going on in your world before the scene. So if you're watching this on the video, go over to the podcast after this is done. We'll leave the link below to catch it on your favorite format to listen to and get to dive into his kind of his day of where he was, uh, where we caught up with him today, and get to kind of dive into an American trip back when he was 18, and it's some pretty cool stuff. As with most of the behind the scenes podcasts, so go check that out. Welcome you as a guest for current and future euphonium artists, parents, musicians alike, or those just curious on to finding what the euphonium really is and who plays this really unique instrument. Uh, James Blackford, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Nicholas. It's just great to be here, and I think it's a great thing you've got going on. So it's a pleasure to be a part of it.
Outstanding. So let's dive into the kind of the your first part of your biography in a sense for this minuet. When did you start with music?
Yeah, so started with music officially probably when I was about 8 years old. Actually, started on violin in Queensland, where I'm from, in Australia. It's yeah, it was about grade three that you could start a string instrument, and not till grade five where you could start brass and wind. And I just wanted to play music. I think I'd always, been a hummer in the shower and played SingStar on my PlayStation, and very probably just naturally musical. My dad played a bit of piano as well, so I got to do some cool things like that. And then yeah, just wanted to play some music. Started on violin. I did not enjoy it. I loved the music, did not enjoy the violin, did not enjoy the teacher, and I sort of stuck it out for 2 years, and then as soon as I could, I switched to brass, and I think trumpet was my first choice, but of course I was the big kid that could carry the euphonium, and so they gave me the euphonium because I could carry it home.
So, what was it like carrying that instrument home that first time? How far did you live away? Did you ride a bus home, or did you actually have to walk all the way home with that euphonium?
Oh, I was lucky. I think I would have been picked up by my mum at the time. But even just carrying it to and from the car um, was enough. I remember being very excited about it. Um, you'd have I think sort of a few months before you got the instruments, you had to have got to have a trial day where you'd go test instruments and stuff, and you sort of I think they'd probably have an open evening for the parents to come in and get some information about it as well. And it was really great. It was part of the curriculum in Queensland at the time. I'm not sure if it still is, but other parts of the country it isn't. But at the time in Queensland, it was you'd pay a very small amount. I think it was sort of $20 or $30 for basically to hire the instrument for the year, and you would get group lessons. Um,
Hold on,
yeah,
they gave you. So, are you talking like sectionals or like group lessons, like where you could, you had a structured like kind of like a master class?
yeah. So we'd have we'd have band rehearsals. We'd work through those. I think a standard of excellence was the one that we worked on. I think there's like essential elements. There's a few others as well, of course. And then we would have group lessons with all the trombone and euphonium students, and I think tuba as well. And then we'd play with the teacher, play through some more standard of excellence stuff, and um, yeah, it was really great, and because it was part of the curriculum, it would happen during school hours, so it was exciting because you get to skip class for 30 minutes once a week, and yeah.
That's cool. So what was it like when so you said your parents got to come in possibly to kind of scope out the band scene and kind of learn the instruments with you?
Um, I couldn't say for sure. I think it was probably more. Um, there would have been opportunity for them to have all the info about the band program and to
So
decide, whether, yeah.
so did your parents know what a euphonium was when you loaded it up in the car?
That's a good question, actually. It's so funny because it's such a normal part of our identity as euphonium players is describing it to people.
Uh-huh.
And how do we do that?
Absolutely.
Uh, I would say, as I think most people, they probably wouldn't know it by name, but most people see the shape and see it and like, oh, that one, I know that one. So it was probably similar for them. Um, yeah, but it was probably a big educational experience for them. I mean, actually, if I'm honest, I do have an older sister who's 2 years older, and she played clarinet and saxophone, and she would have started that same program 2 years before me, and so probably through that they'd probably been exposed to the instruments of a concert band.
Okay, that's cool. That gives us a really good framework and kind of uh, foundation of where your parents are. So, what was it like practicing at home with this big brass instrument?
I just remember always loving it. I just had so much fun. I was such a little nerd with playing scales and all that sort of thing. I had a great time. I think I was also really lucky that I had such supportive parents who were happy for me to practice and probably put up with the sounds that weren't so good at the start, um, and neighbors too, actually, that heard me progress through the years from practicing from next door. Um, but yeah, I just remember just having a great time from the start and just enjoying playing. And I'd sit there with the Standard of Excellence book and just play as much as I could. And yeah.
Well, that's cool. So you mentioned scales and the Standard of Excellence book. When did you really like, I guess, grasp the idea that scales were going to be important?
Yeah. Specifically scales, maybe it was a little bit later, I suppose. It's probably looking forward to maybe the start of high school when I started to do sort of grades, and then you were specifically doing scales. But I think through the Standard of Excellence book, it's been a long time since I've looked at one of them, but I think they would have sort of some basic scales at the start and the end, and I'm sure I used to look at the back just to see the range of the instrument. And I just look through it and try and read through it all, just because I wanted to play every note that the instrument could play.
So that's
In fact, yeah,
that's really interesting for our younger artists and parents. That back of the book has been key into many a euphonium player around the world. So take a look into diving into that back of the book wherever you're at, whichever book it is. I'm certain that there's a fingering chart prevalent
yeah,
in each of these books, as James had shared with us. So you started with the euphonium in at 10 years old, fifth grade. Um, what was your first concert like?
first concert.
Do you remember your first
I
concert?
actually don't remember my first concert. The first,
Like Christmas
I
concert?
actually, I remember a choir concert I was part of in grade two as my first musical experience, and I think we sang Puff the Magic Dragon, and I forgot the lyrics in my big solo that I'd been given. That maybe that's my first traumatic memory of band.
Well, that's pretty awesome. You got a solo for that. You're in second grade. That's really cool. Um, and you got stage fright. It sounds like. Um,
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think I ever thought of it like that at the time. Yeah, I just was too nervous and to sing in front of people. I think part of the reason I love the euphonium, and probably part of the reason I still love it, is the it's that it's in front of you and you can kind of hide behind it at times, and especially sitting in a concert band, you're in the back row, shielded behind it, and you get to just play, and it's not too nerve wracking, I suppose.
I like that how you brought that up. Yeah, going over my own experience. That sounds like right there. You hit the nail on the head. Um, oh, that's fascinating. Never really considered that as part of a key aspect because euphonium players we don't think well we feel at times that we're not recognized as much and sometimes
Yeah.
forgotten, and so it's normal for us to hide behind things because we're not really seen in for the most part, except for the brass band world, which I can't wait to dive into our future episodes and series with you on that your extensive experience and bringing that to light within your journey. The I kind of want to cover. You mentioned you're at 8 years old starting violin, and not having a fondness for your orchestra teacher. What was the biggest difference besides band and orchestra that you experienced between the teaching styles between third grade violin, fourth, and then going into wind band and playing euphonium?
Yeah, I think it was the friendliness of the teacher, um, or at least perceived friendliness from a perspective as an 8 or 9 year old. I think it was yeah, it was just it seemed a lot less friendly environment. I think with the strings, and then when I went into the band world, it was just like this magical teacher who was so friendly and so nice, and you just wanted to be there. So it's just a huge influence basically from her, that teacher, who I do know now. I met again as an adult, and we spoke about about that primary school, and she's a wonderful teacher, and I think that's it makes a massive difference, that sort of initial just perception of is it fun, is it a friendly environment to be in, and I think that's why a lot of people love music, and certainly what makes us get into it, I think, and what makes us stick around.
Absolutely. So have you, when you did reintroduce yourself to her and have that conversation, did you bring up how her kindness in the beginning of the your musical career on euphonium?
I think so. Yeah, I think we spoke about it briefly. I think we also spoke about the violin teacher, and sort of the difference in feelings between the two. But yeah, because and that teacher, the band teacher, she also sort of put me into the high school band while I was still in the primary school, and so I got to experience some really challenging music from an early age as well. So she was always just looking out for the kids, and pushing us in really great ways.
That's fantastic. So, I kind of want to dive back into the violin aspect. The question escapes me as per what I was going for. So, did did the did you get private lessons at all for the violin, or was it just was it just kind of put into your lap and you just have a go at it?
I actually don't remember. I can't say I quite remember specifics, but I think we would have had the similar group lesson um, situation as well. I don't think they would have, because from memory it was sort of a relative, still quite a big sort of string. I guess it would have been a string ensemble rather than an orchestra. It was sort of, it had maybe 10 first violins, 10 second violins, and then I'm not sure how far down, whether there was, I can't imagine there was cellos or double basses in primary school, but I can't actually, I honestly don't remember a whole lot of specifics. I just remember not wanting to go to my violin class, and then feeling the exact opposite about the band class when it started happening.
So is that the same kind of feeling that you had when you would bring your violin home versus bringing your euphonium home to practice? Did you not practice a whole lot at home on violin?
Yeah, and I think I probably would have. I think I always was gonna. I always wanted to play brass, so there is an element of me always wanting that over violin. But I think the feeling of not enjoying it as much definitely carried over, and therefore I wouldn't have played it as much. But it probably was a big thing that I think even from grade 3 I wanted to play a brass instrument, and but I had to play strings to kind of, that was kind of the path to, in order to, or if I wanted to play music in grade 3 it had to be strings.
I can just imagine you with your sister. Maybe you said she was 2 years older than you, and at that point when you're going into second grade and her going into fifth grade of such, uh, and possibly being with her and seeing all the instruments and possibly seeing the brass instruments while she's playing clarinet or saxophone, and trying those out. And I don't know. I just got a vision of you having that wonder about you, uh, and that curiosity, perhaps. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I think I certainly always looked up to her. I mean, I still do. So I think it was probably that was probably a big part. My big sister playing music, so I wanted to play music. Um, and probably at the time we had plenty of family friends that um, probably played in the bands as well. So it was sort of, I think of everyone, all the older kids are doing it, so I wanna do that.
well, that's really cool. Um, so when you went into the high school, it sounds like you had a pretty good transition between uh, primary school and secondary school, um, because of the relationship you had with your band director for that primary school. Um, so what was that transition like as you got into the bigger ensemble and kind of more competitive and more challenging music?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, so I started out um, obviously in primary school, and then that primary school had a high school attached to it, but I actually went to a different high school, which I left at the end of grade 6 to go to what would be basically middle school in the school I went to high school. But it was actually, I missed out on the last year of primary school in a way, so I kind of skipped that. So it's kind of a completely different school. And I think one of the most amazing parts about that school was it had a wonderful music program, and it had its own music building with practice rooms and rehearsal spaces. And all of a sudden, I went from primary school, which was still had a band, and which was really wonderful, to a high school that had multiple bands. We had, I think, three wind bands. And so I got to start in the bottom one, and then you could see the progression. You could see the grade 11s and 12s, and in those higher ensembles. And at the time, I had it's sort of a theme, but it had a really great head of music at the school that was running it all, and really pushing all the students. so it was a really strong program and really competitive as well, which I really loved. And interestingly enough, my sister really didn't like it because she just wanted to have a bit of fun and play the clarinet and sort of sit in band and hang out with her friends. And this head of music was sort of quite pushy and in a way were pushing people to be their best and working hard, and she didn't really want that. Whereas I loved it. I thought, yeah, I want to do the best I can. I want to play the highest and fastest and loudest and um, playing the best band possible. And so I really loved it and really thrived in that environment.
What was
I
it
think,
like transitioning from primary school I, when I guess you moved at that time between primary and sixth grade to where you moved to a different, entirely different school?
yeah, it's a completely different school. So I still lived in the same house, but just a different school. And um, I
And
think it was, yeah, yeah.
how was that? Do you recall like your feeling of having to go away from the friendships that you made in encountered at your primary school? Um, do you recall the feelings of what you felt between that transition into a completely different school?
Yeah, I think I remember. I don't remember a whole lot, but I do remember missing friends, and you know, I think I felt sad at the time that I'd missed that sort of final year of primary school where you kind of you're the oldest year level at the school, so you sort of get a bit of pride in that, and so I missed out on that. But I still lived very close to a lot of those family friends from primary school, so I sort of felt like I had that connection still. Um, and then just obviously making lots of new friends at a school, and I was big. I've always been a sports, lover of sports as well as music. So I did a lot of rugby and swimming and cricket and even a bit of tennis as well. And so I think the transition was probably easier because I was just always involved in so many things. And so you're just meeting so many people very quickly.
Absolutely. And being in band makes that transition I think a little bit easier when moving schools and progressing through because, like you said earlier in our interview, our conversation that, we get to kind of just play our instrument and it's in front of us and we can be part of something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's awesome. Um, I can't wait to dive more into the competitive portion of your director's ambition in the next episode, next in the series. I do want to thank everybody. For those that are not, um, may have not heard the word cricket before, especially here in the United States, we don't get to hear that word a whole lot. It's a really awesome sport. James, do you want to kind of dive into kind of what that is for those that don't understand what cricket is? And it's not the
Yeah, I mean baseball is obviously the closest American relative, I would say. But it's basically you have two batsmen in the middle of a big oval, and you have a crease. And you bowl. Basically, you have a bowler with a big red hard ball, and they run down and bowl the ball, and you have to basically hit it, and then run between the wickets. It's about 20 meter long.
and there's five of them, right? Five
Um,
altogether,
it's two, so you have two batsmen, and then you have
right?
11 fielders, including a bowler.
Right, but like
And so you basically,
bases.
yeah. Oh no, it's just the two. So you have basically one long 20 meter pitch, and you have batsmen at either end, and then when the bowler runs in from one end and bowls the ball, and then you hit it, and then you have to run, and you basically switch. So you run. So you might run one, and you get one run, and then the batters switch, and you
Huh.
have sort of overs which have 6 balls. So 6 balls, and then you switch bowlers, and
I'll have to go back and watch watch all that again to refresh myself. It's been 20 years since I've watched a cricket match, so I'm quite rusty when it comes to catching up. I should have done my homework on that. At me. Um, that sounds really fun. Do you still play cricket?
No, I haven't done played cricket for at least well since high school. Same with rugby actually. I played rugby. That was probably my main sport. So I still follow rugby quite closely, but it's it's I guess once I finished school and went into uni, I sort of went very largely music focused. So I sort of stopped doing a lot of competitive sport in that way, and so
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah,
That's a great stopping point,
yeah,
and gives us a little insight of what to kind of uh, in, expect in the next coming series for you, especially the um, going up to Manchester at some point in the future. I'm not going
yeah,
to spoil. If you want to find out more, you can read his bio. I'll leave the links below. Um, and with that being said, join us back on the behind the scenes on the podcast, where we dive in before and after each interview, each conversation, with extra bonus material in a way. We want to thank you, our audience, for watching and being part of this conversation. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them down below, or just share this out with those that are watching and being part of this living history series, as it grows uh, daily in a way. Um, James Blackford, thank you so much for joining us for this live segment recorded, uh, and we can't wait to have you back on and see where uh, life takes us, and especially you on your journey through and with euphonium.
yeah. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Nicholas, and it's been great. So looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. And remember to serve well. And yeah, take care, everyone. Thank you.